So I'm going to now take this file, we'll just copy that.
Schema. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll add a new class to my project. Let's call it build data. All right. So in my class here, I'm going to have a method that returns a object that is the controller historical data. And keep in mind that this strong XSD over here is a class. I'm going to open up the class file, and you'll see right here, this is a public class, controller historical data. So it's a type. So I want to return that and get historical data. All right. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is instantiate that object. Instantiate. Call it CHD. All right. So there's our object, the CHD, controller historical data object. All of the tables and elements will be generated from this object, and you'll see what I mean by that. Okay, the first thing I want to do is create a meta table, this table here. So to do that, I'm going to move this over here. I want to create a .meta table, call it MDT, and it equals a CHD meta. So this is our data set. The CHD is our data set, which happens to be in the schema of the controller historical data that we created earlier. This data set or class has methods on it. One of those methods is this one called chd.meta. Meta. This returns a metadata table. If I go look at the definition of that, you can see here, keep in mind we're in the strong.designer.cs class or file. The metadata table method gets the table meta. So it returns that. So that's what's going on there. That's why it kind of looks funky, but once you get the hang of it, it makes perfect sense. Okay, so now that we have the table instantiated, we want to instantiate a row for that table. We made a row. We'll call it MR. And then now we call the method off of the MDT new meta row object. So the MDT, or the metadata table class, this is a class as well. And this variable will have this method hanging off of it called new meta row, and it returns a new meta row. That's cool enough. So now we will start adding fields to our meta table, or some data to that row. So here we go, mr.data acquired. Pretty cool on the IntelliSense part. Date time, we'll just say now. And then the person who acquired it, acquired by, equals whatever. Whatever comes to mind. That's fine. Now we've got to add that row to the table. So we've got to call the method off of the table, the MDT table. There is a add row method, add meta row, and just add that row. All right. So that's all you have to do to create a table and add data to it. So if we just do this for each of the tables in this XSD file here, let's say let's do the parameter table. I'll have to do the parameter table, instantiate it. Actually, we've got to do the parameters table, parameters data table. And we'll call it params data table. But params dt equals, and remember we got to call the method that hangs off the chd object, which is params, or parameters. Right? Again, this is essentially a property of this class here. All right, so now we got to add the row. Parameters row. Call it off of the Now we got to add the data. Now this parameters table is an interesting little doodad situation. In the XML table, the XML file, remember over here, where'd it go? Here it is. We wanted a format that grouped the parameters all into one grouping, so that within the opening and closing parameters tag we had a bunch of one or more parameter tags. The idea being that a controller can have more than one parameter. So we can just group all of the parameters in the parameters tag. And it makes it convenient, so if a human's looking at this file, let's say an Internet Explorer or any kind of XML reader, they can easily navigate using the toggle switches here. It makes it convenient for humans here. So in order for this view to occur or be possible, we have to have this mediator or this table here, the parameters table, the parent table that groups it all. So in order to do that, we create this table and we have to give it a unique ID. And another idea behind this thing is that theoretically we can have multiple parameters in this document here. Like we can have apparent parameters right here and then like another one right there. So each parameters will have to have an ID. So technically, we should probably have parameters ID in here. Not necessary though, because that'll never happen. So let's get rid of it. All right.